God called Abraham out of the familiar and comfortable into a life of walking by faith. Now, this was all in preparation for him to receive the covenant. This is all happening ahead of time. He calls him out of the familiar and comfortable into a life of walking by faith, and that's exactly what God does with us too. You know, my pastor used to say it this way. He says, we like to talk to people and that sin isn't fun. But he says, sin is fun for a while. Sin can bring you pleasure for a while. In fact, the scripture says that Moses refused to be considered the son of Pharaoh's daughter, and he refused to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Well, that very verse right there tells you that there are pleasures of sin for a season. But how many of you know the seasons end? And sin brings consequences. Sin brings destruction. Sin brings death. So, just like God called Abram out of the familiar and comfortable into a life of walking by faith, God calls us as well. So as we study Abraham's covenant tonight, I want us to think in terms of we are the children of Abraham, and we are to do the things Abraham did. And God has promises for us to fulfill in our hearts, to fulfill in our lives, to fulfill in our families, just as he had promises for Abraham. So the scripture says in Genesis 12, 1-3, the Lord had said to Abram, leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. Before he cut the covenant, before he gave him all of the promises that he was going to give him, he called him out of the world. He called him out of what was familiar to him. He called him out of what was easy, what was comfortable, what was the natural thing to do. I mean, how many of you have ever felt like God spoke to you and told you to do something and it just seemed like something impossible or something inconvenient and something that you didn't really in your flesh want to do, and you want to say to God, well, God, why can't you just bless me here? God, why can't you just do it here? Why can't you just do it this way? Why can't you just do it this way that I understand? But that isn't how God works. A lot of times God will call us out of what we're familiar with and comfortable with into a life of walking by faith. Why does he do that? Because he wants us to grow in the knowledge of him. And if he leaves us where we're familiar and he leaves us where we're comfortable, then the other things around us will be louder than his voice. And he wants us to tune our ears to hear his voice, to hear his instruction, to hear his heart, and to respond to his spirit. The Lord has said to Abram, leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you.